So when you walk around this gallery, it's such an amazing gallery, and I would urge all brothers and sisters who haven't been here before to definitely come down, because it's like living history. You're just walking through history of the community, and you start with the pictures of the promised Messiah, and you see the humble beginnings of the community in its earlier days, and as you go through each caliphate, you see the progression of the community. And you've got to keep in mind that yes, there is progression, but the mannerism, the etiquettes, the traditions, the true teachings of Islam have been practiced. We haven't kind of been influenced by what society is saying is right. We've kept to what the God Almighty has stated and what the Holy Prophet, may peace be on him, has practiced. But one thing I've always wanted to ask is that you being the official photographer of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community and His Holiness, when you capture these historic moments and you look back at them, does the picture do justice to that occasion? In terms of, it's like such a historic thing. You're there, you're seeing the impact that His Holiness is having on the people, external people as well. Does the picture do justice?
There are two parts to it. I mean, if you ask me as a photographer, I'm never satisfied by it anyway while I'm doing it, because I'm nervous for the fact that I'm in the company of His Holiness, and it's a certain impact on my heart too. I'm also thinking that would I be able to give justice to this very occasion with my skill? I'm also praying at the same time. I'm thinking that may God enable me to capture it to the best of my capability. And at times I am not satisfied. But when I look back at the photos, I see that my small skill, my small effort, my weak effort is just multiplied, and it's just done justice in a sense that people are now appreciating it, and people are saying so many nice things about it. The external audience is also appreciating it. I know for a fact that I wasn't happy at that time, but when I'm feeling nervous, I'm also confident at the same time, because I know that we are doing it for the sake of propagation of Islam. This is all effort. The Khalifa of his time has come out all this way doing this. He's got his speech, he's telling people the right thing, and I'm just there as a photographer. So technically I am just a tool, I'm just a hand which is being used, but it's the will of God anyway at the end of the day. So I now I don't have that much fear anymore. I don't think that, okay, I will be I mean, it's very hard for me to explain. I want to be doing the right thing. I do not want to fail it. But I have this confidence that when I look back and I see what has been preserved and what has been lost. So in the lost, I don't get too sad about it, because I take it as Allah's will. Because at times which things were captured, for instance, when I look at the historic photos, I see that it's in the increment of few years. For instance, you have photos of 1899, and you have got a couple of photos from 1904. Then you see 1910s and 12, and then you jump to 1924 onwards, and then go to 39, and then 50s. And you see that there are gaps. There are actually big gaps. There is no photograph. So what happens? So I have learned, and I have seen the practice of the caliphs. I know that the photograph, and it's funny coming from me as a photographer, because photographers tend to have this thing in them that they just want to take a pic. They will stand at one place and just keep pressing the button. They will just, unless the whole of the occasion is gone, they just keep taking the pictures, because it's a digital age. They're not using any films, so they're never satisfied with it. My thinking is that if I am doing it, again, coming back to the point that we should not, I do not forget why I'm taking this photograph. And that makes a whole impact. And looking at Caliph and looking at the practices of all the caliphs of the community, you mentioned the etiquettes, you mentioned the simplicity, you mentioned how natural it is. I have come to the conclusion, and I am trying to write my thesis about it as well, that this genre is different. I would call it Khalifatul Masih. The genre is Khalifatul Masih. The etiquettes of it, they do not match the photography of the celebrities. There is always a worldly element to those photos, no matter who you are capturing, starting from top to bottom. But when it comes to the Khalifa of the time, we are talking about the Khalifa of Islam, we are talking about the Caliph of the promised Messiah, everything naturally comes in. I mean, what did you read from history? That his blessed gaze he was never looking up. It was always lowered. Similarly, you would see these similarities in these photos. When you travel in this timeline, you would be shocked. Nobody can pose this much similarity. You would see sometimes their actual faces started to look like exactly like each other. I had times when I was about to take a picture of Hazrat Khalifa bin Khamis, the fifth caliph, and for a minute, I was just shocked that I'm looking at the second caliph. And then I was like, no, this is the fifth caliph. This is how much similar they look sometimes. So what it is that there is nothing is practiced. There is no rehearsal. You're walking into Capitol Hill, you are going to the parliament, you are going to the, and then they have their own principles. There is something going on, their own protocols are going on, and he just walks like a simple man. He goes in there, and all of a sudden they seem to forget all their protocols, because that just man comes in. And then coming back to the point, the personality, the impact his personality has. So I'm standing next to him, trying to take a photograph, and I'm scared. I am really scared. I sometimes feel that, should I be doing this? Because I'm going to be disturbing him. He's not like a worldly man. He's not going to say, oh, take your picture. What are you doing? I have never had this, that he would say that, why didn't you take a picture? It would be rather that, what are you doing? You're disturbing. So I will be more, the etiquette is that the photographer, because try to think from a worldly point of view. Many celebrities, when they would go for a show, they would go for their speeches, they are more bothered how
they get like media training and everything.
Exactly, because they want to look perfect. They want to look in the way they want to represent themselves. And it's all fakeness and gimmicks about it. So everything is premeditated, rehearsed and practiced. Even the mistakes are rehearsed. Even if they want to make a genuine, feels like, the impact is that, okay, this happened, that this didn't happen, it was decided. It was just a media stage world, but nothing is a stage in this world. This genre is so difficult, because if he's coming to inaugurate and he's opening a memorial plaque, for example, and we, in our mind, have decided that I'll stand on the left-hand side because he's going to be opening it from this angle, and at that very second, something happens and he changes his angle. This is it. You have this is not a thing that we would approach His Holiness and say, can you pose again, please? It's never going to happen. So then coming back to the point that you're looking at, something is missing and something is preserved. Then you see that how is it that from 1899 all the way to 2021, you have this pictorial archive. It wasn't rehearsed. Everything was done humbly. Everything is done for the sake of propagation of Islam. The whole gallery, the preservation, the photographs, they're all taken for the reason. Because you are not only capturing them, you're preserving them for the oncoming generations to see and witness. Khalifa Masih Sani mentioned that in I think before Golden Jubilee, in 1930s, I think it was 20 years to Golden Jubilee, when he mentioned in 1939, if I'm not wrong, that the people who can afford to buy a camera should buy a camera and try to preserve history. So they took pictures, because the oncoming generation, now this is what happens. Youth comes in here, external media, external audiences come here, and they are sometimes shocked. I remember when a journalist telling me, the journalist came here and he saw this exhibition and he said, I am shocked to see your humble beginnings, and I'm shocked to see how humbly this is all preserved, and nothing is a stage, nothing is as if it's done for the sake of it. And then he says that I don't think that many other rich countries and rich communities and rich companies are able to manage this. So this is all Allah's will at the end of the day. And coming back to the very point, the Messiah of his time knew that this is the technology which has been devised for the sake of benefiting the mankind. I'm again repeating myself. I mean, the same camera can take the most evil picture. Yeah. But look at his intent. And he's explained it. That he talked about encyclopedia at that time. He talked about the X-ray machine. Says that all these things are benefiting mankind. And if something is benefiting mankind, then I'm going to just leave it to the niyat.
Yeah. One other thing it reminds me of what you just said is, and one of the reasons I asked the question as well, is because in this day and age, a lot of people are more concerned about capturing an image than actually experiencing that occasion. And you see it as well, for example, whether it's happy occasions or even if it's a difficult situation. Let's say there's an argument between two people, 95% of the time people, instead of stopping it, They'll take out their phones to record the drama that's happening around them.
So that shows you that this whole practice is just completely led them to this specific selfishness. They just want to claim I was there. Rather, if for example, if I was blessed enough to be in a certain company at a certain time, and Khalifa of his time was explaining some beautiful points or teaching you some manners or teaching you something, rather than actually experiencing and explaining that to the people, I'm just talking about I was there. And so this is why exactly that the essence are not there and the gimmicks of it out there. So you're posing. You're doing something really opposite to what's been told to you. And if you think about it, this is what exactly happens. Think of a person who's, rather than saving a person who's dying, is actually making his video. Yeah. How evil that is in itself. But this becomes such norm these days because, again, coming back to that point, tradition. Yeah. So we are to ask ourselves this question. Is it what we were told by Promised Messiah? Exactly no. There was a big no to it. There was a time, out of his love, a companion printed his photograph on a postcard. Promised Messiah's picture on a postcard, and he disliked it. He said, I do not want it at all because I know that where this would lead to. And he explained it in depth. And then there was a time when one of the companion wanted to just frame the photograph and put it somewhere. And Hazrat said that just keep it in some chest or something because you've done it, but I do not want it to be hanged even unnecessarily. Because if it's not doing what the purpose I've already explained, then I don't want it. And Khalifatul Masih Khamis, current Caliph, is also emphasized on it. In 2016, in one of his Friday sermon, he mentioned this, that photograph, that postcard is again out. And I can see that people are sending it on WhatsApp and on other social media. And he said that's not the right thing because when it was prohibited, you guys should have refrained doing that.
I mean, it's the same argument we use when opponents of Islam depict the Holy Prophet, may peace be on him. You're talking about people who are more dearer to us than our own mothers and fathers and family members. I mean, if you were to put an image of my mother or father, let's say on a cup or on a clock, and I don't like that image, regardless of what the world thinks of it, it's going to affect me. I'm going to be hurt. So when we talk about the promised Messiah, the Holy Prophet, may peace be on them, these are people that we hold dearer than anyone else in this world. So there's etiquettes to how to use their picture.
I mean, going to mother or father or brother, sisters or their photographs, forget that. Think of yourself. You're doing anything and I'm just 24/7 on your face taking your picture. How would you react to it? You know how bad it is. I mean, sometimes you're eating, you've got your own privacy moment. You're probably not appropriate. Your shirt is pulled off or you just don't feel comfortable. And somebody's continuously capturing you. And not only capturing you, putting it on air, how would you feel? Then coming back to the point that where is the privacy gone? It's just like breaching. And the problem with these people who are not thinking that what they're doing, they are something which could be used in the benefit of mankind is completely actually taking you away from it. Now look at the morality of these people who are swarmed by this social media business. They just don't think twice. Their first effort is to get the picture out. They do not think that this could harm. And as a result of which is there are hundreds of incidents you can relate to that they were actually wrong.
Last question I want to ask is, how many pictures do you have in your archives, roughly?
Well, there are two types of data. The pictures, these days when you are covering an event, I take very less photos anyway. So if there are 50 photos being taken, only 4 or 5 are finalized to mark that occasion. So in terms of calculating the final, hundreds of thousands of photos at least. And they're increasing by the day. And the beauty of it is that when you are actually searching historical data, I mean, coming back to the point that the pictures we mentioned of Promised Messiah, if they are somewhere and if God's will one day, if God wants, they will just appear from nowhere, you never know. So these are the things. Those pictures are, for example, the companions of Promised Messiah. In the start of this collation, We had 170 odd photos in the archives, and now we are reaching nearly 600. So pictures are increasing by the day, and they have certain impact. I mean, I'm again relating to this, that it is important to have a photograph if it's available, but if I feel that photograph is more important than the actual thing, and if it's not there, then God knows what will happen. That is not the right way. So photograph is always secondary, because there was no photograph at the time of Rasul Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So anything we hear, anything we read, we make images of it in our head. But what makes a difference in our lives is by actually seeing those people who are doing the right thing. So it is not the end of the world.